Alright, here, millenniums. Well, sorry about the abruptness of it, guys. Sorry about the abruptness of all. We were John C. Roseman, California, the diary of the griever named John Weaver, which is me. Normally I do something like morning or afternoon or evening fellow zombies. Are we alive yet? Are we sleep deprived yet? Or emotionally screwed up? Something along those lines. It's July 29th, 2024, 2:15 in the afternoon, West Coast time, and the nerves are razzled and frazzled as we're going through shaking, baking, and quaking today. Okay, keep you guys up to status here. Some of you guys I know are out here in the Antelope Valley, so we had a bit of a surprise shaker from Barstow, 22 miles about east, 22 actually kilometers. Caltech was recording about a 4.9 around 1 o'clock and had a few minor shakers. So yeah, it was a good sized one. Shook everybody else, and then everybody else all the way through Burbank had been saying, "What was that?" Out here in the Antelope Valley, we didn't have to ask what was that. We knew what it was. So as we saw our animals acting in freakish manners and our anxiety level going up, we're like, oh crap, not again. Yeah, I mean, it was bad enough hearing about temperature going up again. We're going to be cranking it on there, according to what the Weather Channel's been recording on us. Let's see, about right now, so 97 degrees, a lot cooler than the triples. Speaking of which, by Thursday we're going to be cranking it back up to 104. So yeah, today enjoy the 97 for right now until about 4 o'clock, and we'll probably reach about 95 or 96, I think. Tuesday is going to be about 99 to 100. Wednesday about 102. And then predicted on Thursday 104. Drops down to 100 on Friday and Saturday 104. Yeah, boys and girls, we're cooking. There's your bacon right there. We had shaking bacon and we had the shaking with the quaking. And I'm not trying to make a joke out of this thing. That's just basically what's been happening. And if you're up in Northern California, God help you guys. I've been trying to keep track of what was happening out there. I mean, it's once I reached past about 135, 140K, I think my brain just shut down on that one. We're talking about mega fire like crazy, and all because of one guy wanted to push his burning car into a ravine. This guy is really going to have answers for the arson, not to mention the jurisdiction that they're holding him in there. Wondering what is with this guy's mental malfunction. We're lucky we haven't had any recorded deaths yet. Otherwise, the charges are going to be, if they actually did have any recorded deaths, the charges are going to be well up there. Personal note, today was a day that there was some kind of maintenance happening on our plumbing issues. I know I've been talking about it maybe once or twice on it in the other videos I've done. I was trying to treat it as an emergency preparation. We are dealing with earthquake country. And if anybody happens to believe in the Hawaiian legends concerning about Pele and Gaia, and I wouldn't put it past anybody to do so, I wouldn't mark it against them on that one. Two angry Earth deities probably ticked off at the human race again by doing their earthquakes. I mean, I could make a joke about that one, but it's also a reminder that we're still living in the Pacific Rim of Fire, so earthquakes can happen at any time. Now, there have been jokes passed around online concerning about tornadoes and hurricanes would be preferable to the earthquake. I said, no, it isn't. With a tornado, you can run and hide somewhere if you can. A hurricane, just run and find a place. You see it coming. Quakes are sneaky. They are the Earth's movement that's in a constant motion, and they do enough damage as it is, one way or another. There's still a lot of volcanic activity happening in certain areas. I mean, within the past couple of weeks, we already heard something about Yellowstone. And that's in a constant geologic process. People keep thinking we're going to be having a super volcano. There'll be rumblings on that one. There'll be indications. And the USGS in the park, well, several federal agencies will be monitoring that very closely if there is going to be any kind of activity. Iceland, well, that's on a constant basis right there. So is Hawaii. You're still seeing some volcanic activity happening there. I try to keep track of it as best as I can on YouTube. There's live cameras about Iceland and some on the main island. So yeah, I'm worried about that. Meanwhile, I did say about fires, didn't I? About the mega fire. We still have fires happening in Kern County along the eastern borders in the mountains. And there's been a lot of areas being evacuated because the fire still hadn't been contained enough. They're still screaming for more um, engines if they can get them from all over the states or different states right now. But this is just to let you know what's happening. My nerves are still fried. I'm still jumpy. I can give you a brief history concerning about how I survived the 71 earthquakes all the way through here, but I doubt you'd be interested in that situation there. But suffice it to say, anything happening in Southern California with the quakes, yeah, I was getting very well familiar with my territory here. But it is a reminder to all of us Californians and to anybody else living in the Pacific Rim of Fire or anywhere else for that matter. Even Texas is having earthquakes out there, if I'm not mistaken. Now, granted that they actually have fracking going on. Basically, they're trying to pump out the liquid and gases by shooting in other liquids and gases into the rock, trying to force the oil and gases coming out so they can be utilized. But it also disturbs the geology in the area too. I mean, the ground is not normally um, known for earthquakes. But if you happen to disturb the geology enough, yes. If you happen to take away some of the water layers that are the lubricants in the rocks in between the layers, it keeps them in place. But if there's any disturbance in those, then yes, earth movement is going to be happening. I guess people forget about that one there too. That's why they've been having for years earthquakes in Tornado Alley. I learned about more of this in geology classes back in no, back in not in high school, but in college, in my later years. Back in the 80s, when I went to Pierce College as a teenager, we didn't come across fracking. Coming across where water being dislocated, yes, but I never came across the terminology of fracking. That's what they use. That's the terminology. But I started to understand what sedimentary rocks is, and especially when the liquid is being redistributed because of earth shaking. If a fault line was actually getting under pressure and starting to move things, you know, by this kind of or by up or by down motions, whatever the earth was going to be forcing itself to do, then we would feel that effect. And also, how would it be affecting buildings theoretically on stable ground and it just became quicksand, called the liquefaction. And we'd seen the damage in 94, but we also seen the damage in 71 earlier than that. I was so much of a kid back then. So I was about 5 or 6. It wasn't fun living in an apartment, 2-story, on top level, and then everything else went hell in a handbasket early in the morning. Seeing beds going bang, 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 bang. Ma's trying to get my big brother and me off of them. Just give me 1 second. And we stayed huddled after we got off the beds. We stayed huddled in the hallway until the shaking settled out, and it was a lot of wave action, a lot of rolling. Outside, there were apartments getting damaged by the neighborhood, by the swimming pool in the middle of the apartment complex. Manager's office primarily just got flooded out like crazy. It took a month to get that repaired. By that time, we also moved down to a lower level, just one level right below us, and then we're actually able to live there a few more years until we got out of the apartments. But every so often, there would be these little shakers that would happen, and my blood pressure would go up, my anxiety level would go up because I started to learn how to hate it. Malibu shook us a bit, and then there was Whittier and Arrows. That was a good size shaker right there. Scared the living crap out of everybody. But I remember January 17th, 1994, 4:30 in the frickin' morning. We had to have an earthquake on Martin Luther King birthday. And I'd see neighborhoods look like they were stable enough. They weren't stable enough. Facades crumbled down, roofs caved in, front porches collapsed. A few of the houses were red tagged up and down the streets. In different areas, they were a lot more red than red tagged. Besides trying to watch things on a battery powered television, it was hard enough trying to go to the stores left and right, trying to get supplies necessary. The stores were giving away all of their perishables, all the bread, all the cheese, all the milk, eggs, meat, ice cream. There's no way to do the frozen foods unless you were going to be boiling them or finding some other way to cook them. Charcoal was being given out left and right. I mean, the stores were just trying to empty out their inventories left and right. What was getting, what was up on pops like the 7-Elevens, charging an arm and a leg for a pack of batteries. Batteries back then for maybe a 2-pack or a 4-pack of D's were about $5 or $6, I think. Try paying about $20. What could be about $2 or $3 bag of ice became $10. Cops are called, and there was a lot of arguments concerning about the pricing, but they were still stuck there. Took the state of California, I think days or weeks after the 94 quake, to come up with their price gouging laws. If we actually had another uh, situation that happened, the laws would kick in to force the retailers, small and large, to at least price things 10% above, but that's about it, not 50% or 100%. Yeah. As for the earthquake that we happened earlier this morning, actually early in the afternoon, we haven't heard any damage reports coming from California Highway Patrol or from anybody else out there because after the quake happened, about 30 minutes later, our local stations, after picking up the information, started going out the broadcast. So, and I was trying to keep track of it too on social media to see if anybody else was hurting. But no, a 5 pointer didn't do that much damage, except maybe you crack a few walls or knock a few plates off. After that, they had smaller rumbles and nerves afraid, but no major damage. Now, like back several years ago when we actually had ridgecrest going through it, about 2019, I think. Yeah, 2019. We had a sixer to nearly a sevener in there on the magnitude. That did damage along corridors of roads and businesses and homes. And we felt it out here in the Antelope Valley, California. We felt the shakers. It didn't cause that, except again to remind me, I still hate quakes, and I still have to be on emergency preparedness all the time at this point. Reason why I was trying to get at the '94 quake example there. During those days, I had to learn more about how to prepare for these things and how to keep an emergency supply at home. Batteries for flashlights, dry food, um, beans, lentils, pasta, canned food that still had to be rotated left and right. Breads, well, breads are temporary. So is eggs, milk, stuff in the freezer, that's temporary. But when it comes down for a quake, you're going to be living on dry food for a long while. Even, believe it or not, granola bars and granola comes in handy unless you're going to be diabetic at that point. Powders would be nice, but you have to mix it in with water if there is any water sources. The thing concerning about earthquake survival, I was also being taught of keeping emergency water with you at all times, at least 2 or 3 gallons. I know other places and other people and residences have got more storage containers. We haven't got that out here in the apartment complex. Said before earlier this morning, and when you got the notification on Friday afternoon at the close of business, they just slapped the notifications that there was going to be some repair work between a certain set of hours. So we had to be prepared for that and don't flush the toilets and stuff like that. So yeah, naturally, I didn't know how long it was going to take and if it was going to be a major job or a minor job. I don't know, but they had to shut down the entire complex's water supply. So in the past couple of days, pots and pans that are actually deep enough contain the water. I'd gotten a couple of 2.5 gallons, two of them in the fridge standing by. Jugs, after you wash them out, put them up with water, ready to go. Smaller bottles, containers full of that water just in case. I mean, I wasn't getting around in this damn thing. It was going to last me about 1 or 2 more days. I was going to be dealing with it. And here's the fun part about kind of survival situations. It's not the cooking material that you still have to worry about. It's the waste material. Let me put it bluntly on this one. When you're dealing with an emergency situation and you run out of water at this point, and you really want to do your biological needs, you're not going to have anything to dump them in, except find a way to put them in a garbage bag. I'm grateful and lucky enough that I actually had a commode ready to rock and roll, and the commode was something for my brother. Before he passed away, we had gotten him one, and I held on to it ever since. Whether or not it was going to be needed or not, but I wasn't taking any chances on this one. So some of the stuff he left behind, I'm holding on to it because they always find a use. And in the eventuality that there was going to be water shortage, or maybe if there was an earthquake and the water mains are broken, then I still would have a pot to do things in. Now I learned this one the hard way when I was taking care of my mother before my brother had his situation going on. Mom was able to use the bathroom, but then she wasn't able to, and we had to get a commode for her. When you're a caregiver, you'll have to learn a lot of things, and I did. And after dealing with earthquakes and about how to be prepared for survival, and half the time I'm not, to tell you the truth. I'm more prepared with a power outage than I am about the earthquake situation. But even during an earthquake, there are power outages and water disruption. The things that you have to learn and worry about when you're a Californian, much like when you're living on the East Coast or even in the Southeast, when you're living in the Panhandle area or in the Hurricane Central area, shall I call it, that you still have to keep up with the survival gear, the survival food, and what you're supposed to be doing during those times. Now, me living out here in the West Coast, we don't get that kind of situation. Granted, we'll get thunderstorms rolling through, we get mudslides here and there. We'll get landslides a great deal because the water hasn't quite settled out in the ground and everything else goes hell in a hand basket. Yeah, I know about buckets, dude. Believe me, I need to get more buckets. Buckets cost decades. Keep in mind when you're on limited income, you got to deal with what you got and utilize everything that you got. May seem like ridiculous to a lot of people. For me, it's survival. That's all it is survival. And those have been through those kind of situations where they had to deal with days on end without water. They know better. They know better. So that's what's happening today. As for the rest of the day, because of the earthquake situation, well, we still have the politics facing out there. And I sure as hell don't want independent so-called media out there and then the corporate media sniping at each other. I get so sick to death of it that I start watching cartoons. Nothing wrong with watching cartoons. I like it. So other than that, guys, I'm still hanging in there. As for some of you guys who are still out here in the Navy, it's settled down a bit. We're not going to get any more quakes. Let's hope to God we don't. But this is going to give us a reminder that, yes, we still need to be prepared for the eventuality. Now, getting back to one more thing before I close off. I said about power outages. On some occasions, we do get spikes. Edison, Cal ISO will either give us warning or no warning at all when we get power outages and brownouts. I've got a couple of igloos ready to rock and roll. I've got blue ice. I've got ice bags, which should be food. It's full of ice because some of the perishables I still want to use for maybe a day or two. Then after that, it's no damn good. If I keep the door closed enough and I keep the ice in there, I'll keep it temperate enough. But anything else, it's going to be open season in the garbage can. That's for darn sure. Okay, that being said, I'll do the videos one more time when I can. I'm still waiting for more flash drives in so I can store this stuff. I'm hoping you guys have a good day. That would be Amazon, hopefully with my flash drive.